Oh, thank
What
you.
is negative or what is positive gearing? We're going to go through the kindergarten maths on positive and negative gearing. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Good morning.
Positive gearing or negative gearing. A little bit of a typo there. Sorry, guys. Morning, Mark. How are you?
Good, legend. Good.
So
This is exciting.
this is a good one, and it's a changing marketplace. There are investors coming back into the fray. I think a little bit more than maybe what we've seen over the last year or two. They've been in and out of the marketplace. So good time to talk about the differences between the investments and the tactics they might employ. So Mark, positive and negative gearing. As an investor yourself, they both hold good weight for different things. Can you elaborate on for us at all?
Yeah, absolutely. And good morning, Emma. Good morning, Jacqueline. Good morning, everyone. Any questions? It's a live show. You can always ask. Just make sure you're on the Novak Facebook to make your comments, and we'll reply. But this is a big one because I think sometimes people are a little embarrassed to ask the question. It's always thrown around the word positively geared property or positive gearing. Negative gearing's always been thrown around. Positive gearing's been thrown around a lot more lately because interest rates have been so low. It's pushed people into positive. But let's strip it right back and let's go back to sort of 101, what it actually means to people and what these terms are. I guess to start off, when you rent a property, advanced mathematicians look at it like gears in a car, and they look at it, like how you are gearing a property after you consider your strata, water, council interest rates. The wash up at the end of the year, you are negative after that wash up, then you can gear that tax wise, or you are positive after that wash up, then you can gear that tax wise, pay a bit of tax. So I guess from the top level, that's where we're going with positively gearing and negatively gearing property. But today we're going to step you through every level.
All right. So if you said briefly there, it's probably changed a little bit more lately with the low interest rates. Typically, your Australian investor, Mark, would they be looking for a positive or a negatively geared property for the wider audience out there who are new to this?
Oh, look, you always want positive. But I think you've got to be very, very careful because you're not just chasing rent when you're buying a property, you're also chasing capital growth. So a lot of areas in Australia or some parts of Sydney, they are heavily positively geared, but they're not going to give you the value of the property is not going to go up as much. So be careful, because if you're getting a rental return on a property, that may represent 3, 4, 5% rental return. But if you're getting a capital return, that may represent 0%, as in it doesn't go up over 10 years, or it may be as much as 10% a year. So I think you've got to have a really good balance of those things. But today, when people talk about positive gearing and negative gearing, they don't consider the value of the property. They only are talking about the rental return coming in on the property.
Yeah. Okay. So from an investment yield, from an investment perspective, first thing, you're not buying it as a principal place of residence. You can take out a different loan in the first place so that you can either choose principal or you can choose interest only. So typically a lot of investors will look at an interest only strategy where they're just paying their current 2% a year. So you're getting, let's say, for example, the one that we just sold, Mark, which we discussed a little bit this morning. We sold a unit in Maramba Road, across the road in DY from the office. It sold unconditionally this week, just around that 800K level. So for an investor who's who's purchasing that property, if it was an investor, what are their thoughts and strategies going to be moving into that purchase with an investor's cap on? No emotion, it's numbers. Should we break it down a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, guys. If we bring up, so let's just use one property as an example and run the negative gearing numbers or the positive gearing numbers on that. I think it's going to clarify. It's going to land the plane a little bit for people. They're going to get it. So if we use a real live 1-bedroom unit and a real live price, now this, I'm not saying this is a terrific buy or not a terrific buy. I'm just trying to grab a property for some numbers. So if you consider this property that we've sold in Maramba, I don't know if you want to put the link in or bring it up today, James, but if you consider that property for $800,000, as an investor, and say this is, let's use this as your second property. So, you know, COVID's been funny the last couple of years. You may have more equity than you ever dreamed the last year or two. Your income has probably been pretty stable considering what's happened around the world. And you're going, you know what, I'm really interested in this negative gear, positive gear investment property thing. Now, this property is $800,000. If it's your second property and you've got equity or cash available in your existing property, you can borrow 100%. Now, if you're borrowing 100% on 800,000, you're borrowing 800,000. So we're buying Maramba, we're buying it for 800,000, and for an investor on an interest-only loan, I may just use, although you'll probably get about 2.62% interest, I'm just going to use 3% to be conservative with our numbers. So 3% on 800,000 is 24,000 a year. So 24,000 a year is the interest that you have to pay the bank on an $800,000 unit. The bank's going to want that no matter what. Vacant property, occupied property, tenanted, untenanted, it doesn't matter. They are going to want that money. So straight away, your biggest cost of owning a property is going to be $24,000 a year on a 3% interest-only loan. What other costs do you have?
Sorry, I've just my screen has frozen, Mark, because I tried to screen share, so I've lost my StreamYard and my screen share page. Just so you know,
I can see you though; it's working fine.
Okay, cool. So yeah, as you said, at 3%, you're talking about $24,000 for your principal only. That property rents for $600 a week. So immediately,
So before we go there, wait, hang on a second. I just want to do the negatives first. What are your other costs that you have? So you've got 3% interest rate. Let's do all the negatives, and then we're going to do the positives, which is going to be the rent. So what are the negatives we've got?
So you've also got your Strata Water Council that you've got to pay on your quarterly basis. So they're outgoings of yours that are absolute. You've got to pay them. You may have management fees or letting fees from your agency that are looking after the property for you. So that might be equivalent to a week's rent or 5 or 6% of your year's income for the property manager to look after everything and you not lift a finger. So you've got those, you've got the letting fees, you've got the outgoings that you may have. You may have some maintenance that you have to do throughout the year. So you have to also account for these things. And when you do,
all right, how much is that?
That takes you very close. Well, let's just say that takes you bang on to about 31,000 with all of those.
So if we go Strata, say 800 a quarter. Water's going to be 180 a quarter. Council's going to be about 350 a quarter. And agent fees is going to be probably about 350 a quarter. It's about $6,000 worth of stuff there. Maybe you're going to have repairs. This particular property, you're not going to have repairs, James. It's a fairly new property. So, so 6 plus 24,000 interest, we're at 30 grand now. We're at 30 grand. So it's costing you 30 grand to run this property for the whole year. That's money out, money out, money out, money out. What money in do you have coming?
Yeah, so you've got your rental return. It's tenanted, so you've got your tenant paying you weekly rent. So as we said, that from what we said on this one takes you to around that 31K level, 31,200 or so. So,
So how much per week are you going to rent it for?
We're saying in this example, 600 a week for this unit.
Okay, so 600 times 52 weeks, we're at 31K.
Correct, 31.2.
Okay, so you're out 30K, you're in 31K, that's the rent coming in. Good news.
Cash
You're
positive.
up 1,000. Okay, so in our industry, we call that positive gearing. So when you go through all of that, the net, you're positively geared. Now, so you're going to have a property that you're going to profit $1,000. So get this, guys and girls, you can still, in today's market with today's prices, you can still go out and buy an investment property in DY as an example, the one we're giving today, and it's not costing you a cent.
Okay, perfect. So what's the differences
At the end of the year,
sorry, go on. My screen's frozen, so I'm not with the timing cues, I'm afraid.
That's all right. So you've pretty much got, the good news is you've bought an investment property, you've used the existing equity in your property, you're making $1,000 a year. Now, that's a positively geared property. We haven't even spoken about capital growth. Now, what Anmal's saying is when you're positively geared, you will be up that $1,000. You've profited that $1,000. You will have to pay tax on that $1,000 at whatever your tax rate is. So you may be up for $300, $500 in tax, and bear in mind that's on a 3% interest rate. So we went pretty hard on the interest rate. And if the property doesn't grow, you continue to pay on a tax positive investment. So I think where Anmal's going here, and it's probably the cleverest way to look at it, is I see a lot of people chasing positively geared properties, and I see people that's all they chase. So they get to the end of the year and they're up $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000, and they are heroes. They are champions. But if that property is not doubling over the next 10 years period, it's actually a pretty shit investment. So to give you an idea, when we're using this DY as example, DY's always done over 7 or 10 years, it's doubled. So this unit that we're talking about that's costing you $800,000 for a 1-bedroom, believe it or not, it's going to be $1.6 million in 10 years. James is frozen. I'll keep talking. So basically the way that's going to look is, I'm just going to let James in. G'day, mate. Got 3 Jameses. Look at that.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm back. I can see the screen again. Let me just get rid of that. Don't know where he came from. Sorry about that. We're back.
So what I was saying, James, is that $800,000 property is going to be doubled, theoretically, over the next 10 years. That's what it's done the last 50 years in DY. Now, that means that's going to be making $80,000 a year. All right, so it's positively geared by $1,000. It's making you $80,000 a year. It's making you $1,500 to $1,600 a week, and it hasn't cost you anything to run it. That is an amazing, positively geared investment.
And that's right. So when you think about it, if you bought in a good position, like somewhere like a DY, where you've got really good rental income, it's consistent, there's low vacancy, you've got a property for 10 years, it doesn't need much maintenance, there's more depth you can take it with further into the taxing side of things and depreciation and whatnot. But all you needed is a 10% deposit or your deposit to purchase the home, and then there's no further investment except for a minute amount of time. 10 years later, you can cash out the
That's right.
home, in theory.
That's right. And you don't even need that deposit if you have another property with equity in it.
Correct.
But before we go, I do want to cover the same example as negatively geared property.
Yep.
We used a 3% interest rate, which is well above where interest rates are at the moment for interest-only loans. If we use a 4% interest rate, so let's assume interest rates go up, it's going to make this property negatively geared. And allow me to just run through those maths very quickly for people.
Yep. So
$800,000 property.
Correct. 4% at 800K. Go on when you're ready.
Yep.
32.
So we're 36 grand. Is gonna be where the interest is gonna be on that property. So $36,000 is going to be your cost. Then you're going to have strata, water, council, and agents' fees. I think we put in that last example $6,000 on that. So now we're up to 42K. So you are out of pocket $42,000 a year. But you've got rent coming in. How much was that?
31.2.
31.2, which was $600 a week. So now your net at the end of the year is you're going to have to find $11,000 to hold and to keep this property. That is, ladies and gentlemen, a negatively geared property. Now the good news is with the government in Australia and our taxation laws, when you are down that $11,000, you can put your hand up and ask for a tax break on that. So if you're paying 30 cents in a dollar, 40 cents in a dollar, 45 cents in a dollar on your annual tax, when you include your wage and your everything, you will get back. You could get back, because this is not financial advice. I've got to be careful. 11th, you will get 30%, 40% back on that $11,000. So after paying all those debts, having all that rent come in, being negatively geared, the government will give you a pat on the back for $3,000 or $4,000. That is negative gearing.
And it's interesting, isn't it, Mark? Because, you know, we talk about it there from just that entry level perspective, but you've got all different levels of investor, from your entry to your whale type, if you like, and everything in between. And they're in every single marketplace almost. So, you know, you come past these people, you have these conversations. Some people are doing it for tax reasons. Some people just want to build a portfolio. There's a hell of a lot of reasons in which property investing is a good thing. If you're on the Northern Beaches, you've got guaranteed growth almost to a degree, or there has been in the past. So property is a very safe place to put your money, and sometimes you don't need the cash in your pocket. As you say, Mark, you can just use equity in a home. Equity being your mortgage remaining minus the value of the property is your equity in the home. Can you just access that straight away? Will the bank just give it to you if you haven't got an investment property before? What sort of things would you need to do to get that in the first place, Mark?
They're going to want to do a bank valuation on your existing property to see that there's free equity available to buy something else, and they're going to want to see your income as well. But guys, that is negative gearing. That is positive gearing. I hope this can help someone out there. Forward it to someone, this show, if you want to help a family or friend to explain it. And that's a show.
That's a wrap. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys. Bye. Oh, Steve Carroll.
Yeah.
How are you, legend? He's the man.